It's so good to be with you all today. My name is Maddie Clifford, and I'm the creative media strategist with the Debt Collective, the nation's first union of debtors. And I'm here today as a student loan borrower who owes over $120,000 in student debt. I have spent almost a decade as an educator, well, more than a decade as an educator, and I'm standing here today in solidarity with debtors over 50 years old. A lot of people think of the student debt crisis, a $1.7 trillion crisis, as a young person's issue, right? As an issue that affects Generation Z or millennials. But the fastest growing demographic of student debtors right now are borrowers that are 50 and older. Okay, so this issue, the student debt crisis, is affecting people from multiple generations. And I'm standing here today because behind me, we collectively owe over $1 million in student debt. What have we done? We decided to go to college. That was our only decision. We decided we wanted a piece of the American dream, and we're being penalized for it. We're being punished. And these are really important issues because we also know that older debtors have contributed so much to the community. They are beacons of light in their communities. They have sacrificed to keep their communities afloat, and yet they're worried about how they're going to make these student loan payments. Sometimes they're $1,000 a month. Sometimes they're $1,500 a month, and there's no way they can pay them. So sometimes they have to default, and older borrowers, 50 and older, are also more likely to default on their student loan payments. Okay? Right now, today, death is the only comprehensive student debt relief plan. I'm going to say that again so that you can really hear it. Older borrowers have seen all types of student loan repayment plans. IDR, ICR, PSLF, SAVE, ABCD, EFG, HI, all types of different plans, right? We've seen it all. The only comprehensive student debt relief plan that the federal government offers right now is death. That is the only way people can escape from these student loan payments. The federal government doesn't even need these payments. They know that they won't be able to collect the debt from these borrowers, and yet they're still punishing them. And student loan borrowers represented by the people behind me are also overwhelmingly women, are also disproportionately Black women, are the people in this country who are most deserving and in need of support from the federal government and from our communities. This has rippling effects across generations. So today, I want you to listen to these stories, and I want you to understand that this is an issue that could be solved easily. We are urging the Biden-Harris administration to work as fast and as hard as Republicans are working to keep us in debt to free borrowers from these loans. And they can do it today. Under federal regulations, the Department of Education can cancel debt based on age. So we are urging the Biden-Harris administration to do just that. So I'm going to start off by inviting a borrower named Gail to come up and speak today. And I want you to really listen to her story. And I want you to understand why this is so important, because I have a feeling the federal government doesn't want to commit elder abuse, right? Right? I was taught to respect my elders. And I'm going to keep doing that, and I'm going to keep fighting for them. So let's clap it up for our first speaker today.
I'm good. Good evening. Americans over 60 are the fastest growing demographic of student debtors. I should know. I'm one of them. I'm 77 years old, and today I owe $549, $497.20. Let me say that again. $549,497 and a whole 20 cents in student loan debt. As seniors stretch limited incomes across rent payments and medical bills, groceries and gas, student loan payments often end up getting paid last, if at all. Decades of broken student relief programs, corrupt loan servicers, and government neglect have meant that millions of older Americans drag decades-old student debts into their retirement. Absent swift, bold policy change and clear political leadership, this crisis will only deepen. The debtors will get older, the debts will get bigger. That's why on today, September 12th, I am in Washington, D.C. with a group of older student debtors to demand the White House and the Department of Education finally take responsibility for clearing the student debts burdening myself and millions of older Americans. This will be the first time in history that elders lead the charge of student debt cancellation for older debtors and for everyone. Despite the far right's ongoing attempts to block student loan relief, canceling student loans remains perfectly legal and utterly necessary. And fortunately, there are tools the Department of Education can still use to quickly deliver relief to those who need it the most. Federal regulations specifically enable the Department of Education to discharge student loans based on the age of a debtor. The Biden-Harris administration must use this provision to liberate older debtors without delay. If they don't, millions of us who take these unpayable debts to the grave. Like so many others, I took on a student debt in order to make my life better for myself and my family. As a single parent, nothing was more important to me than caring for my children, feeding them, clothing them, offering them extracurricular activities. I did not want to live on welfare or raise them on public assistance. I wanted to take care of my family, and I wanted to contribute to my community. So I got a master's in English education and became a teacher. For 20 years, I worked in low-performing schools within the communities of color, like the ones I grew up in the Bronx. I loved teaching, but mostly I loved my students. I traveled to watch them play college football, performed in their band. I went to their college graduations. Every now and then, I sent them a few dollars or a care package or called their parents to say hello, or even just chat in the grocery store. Working as a teacher was the best years of my life, but the work didn't pay. After 20 years of working in the school district, I was tired. I retired from teaching, but I couldn't afford to retire from working. So at the age of 65, I went back to school to get a master's degree in pastoral counseling. I decided on pastoral counseling because as a leader in the church and as a survivor of sexual abuse, I wanted to learn how to facilitate healing conversation that could help my community. And my community was hurting a number of older women in my church had been silent on their experiences of sexual abuse as children. These women would leave my office with some release and courage to address the nightmare and maybe share it with others. This work also deepened my advocacy work on sexual assault, including my efforts to track down details of my own rapist and my rape kit abandoned for decades. Today, a law expanding rape kit tracking system in Florida is named after me. As my advocacy and counseling has taught me, absent political leadership, injustice festers while victims suffer in shame, even though they have done nothing wrong. This knowledge fuels my commitment to fighting for student loan relief today. We all know people who are ashamed of being poor in this country, when the real problem is an economic system stacked in favor of the rich. As a single mother with multiple jobs, making payments on my loans with extreme difficulty, even with my income-driven repayment plan. Each time I received a notice from the loan servicer, my blood pressure would rise. Anxiety and depression would set in. I rarely opened those envelopes, allowing them to pile up until I occasionally worked up the courage to open and shred them. After all, I knew what they said, and I knew I did not have the money. The sum was so overwhelming, you'd think I had a medical degree, or a Jewish doctor degree, or a doctoral degree, not to mention a seven-figure salary. As I watched the interest compound, I felt trapped with no other way out. However, there is a clear exit for this nightmare. For the Biden-Harris administration to cancel our student loans, use the clear authority that they possess. Until the president and the Department of Education take responsibility for canceling these old, unpayable, unjust debts, this crisis will continue to fester across generations. Today's young debtors are tomorrow's older debtors. For decades, millions of older debtors have crouched in shame, imagining ourselves as failures when in reality, the system has failed us. But we will no longer be duped into suffering alone. This week, for the first time in history, older student debtors have gone to Washington to demand our student loan debts get canceled in our lifetime, not at our funerals. We can't afford to wait.
Next, we're going to hear from Athena. It makes me so mad that these women even have to be here. And we need to clap it up for them because they are so brave. We are here today demanding that the Biden administration cancel these debts.
Oh, hello, everyone. I just want to read an excerpt from an article. Okay. I just want to read an excerpt from an article entitled Ronald Reagan's Legacy, The Rise of Student Loan Debt in America, written by Sriskanda Kandamala, a student at University of California. Okay, during Reagan's campaign, quote, during Reagan's campaign for the governorship of California in 1966, he publicly criticized the University of California system. Reagan referred to these student protesters as brats, freaks, and cowardly fascists. In an interview with the San Francisco Chronicle, Reagan's education advisor, Roger A. Freeman, stated, "We are in danger of producing an educated proletariat. That's dynamite. We have to be selective on who we allow to go through higher education." This belief has shaped higher education to become a privilege of the upper class, with tuition serving as a barrier to those from the working class backgrounds, unquote. Fast forward to today, the price to attend college is out of pocket and exceedingly high for most Americans. As of 2022, 42.8 million Americans have federal student loan debt. Reagan's actions, both as governor and president, marked a pivotal point in governmental policies towards higher education. His legacy on education has left students to face the burden of tuition, ultimately paving the way for this student debt crisis. Now that we know who and how the student debt crisis started, let me tell you how this has affected me personally. All right, my name is Athena Blue. I am 67 years old. I am a widow, a mother of 5 grown children, and a grandmother of 5, and a retired registered nurse. I attended college and received my BS degree, nursing degree in Georgia, and I've been a registered nurse for well over 40 years. And I was the wife of a 20-year military veteran and U.S. Army Ranger who served this country with dignity and honor. My husband and I were both college grads. After graduation, of course, he was at commissioned to the U.S. Army as a second lieutenant. Our initial college debt was peanuts compared to what our children have to pay for tuition today. We were able to pay off our student loans before his first tour of duty was over because they were not transferred to any other lender. The biggest personal struggle I've had to overcome is realizing that I'm not alone and that I'm not a bad or lazy person. I used to get depressed thinking about these debilitating student debts, but right now I'm good. I know the truth behind the cause of this debt that affects both young and old alike. I also realize that the student debt crisis and the debt that I'm in isn't my fault. It was created purposely by people like former President Ronald Reagan, who believed that only certain people should have the right to higher education. This entire student debt crisis was started by him. People like him fear an educated working class. They fear minorities being educated. This fear is fueled by their greed and their fierce determination to uphold their status quo. It threatens their livelihood and their power status. Instead, they prefer a dumbed-down, deeply indebted populace whom they can easily manipulate and control. This is why I'm here with a debt collective 50 over 50. This wrong must be righted. Now, I worked hard for many years as a nurse in this country, caring for others and my family. I've earned my retirement and I want to live it in peace. I did not plan to shovel out my hard-earned money for student debt that I had to incur due to this plan Reagan and his cohort set in motion. The debt I have incurred is not on my behalf. It was for my youngest son to attend college. But as a talented artist who wished to pursue his passion in art and technology, my spouse's debt-to-loan ratio is too high, so it fell to me to sign those dreaded loan papers. I had to get a Parent Plus loan for my child to attend university. My current Parent Plus loan amount is $174,000, mainly because of interest accrual. For over 20 years, I have been paying about $1,000 a month on this loan, and because I am now retired, none of that money I've paid in can be counted towards the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. It wouldn't be so bad if it wasn't for the interest that keeps accruing. I had paid off all interest for this loan in 2020. Then the loan company immediately sold my loan to another lender. So guess what? I'm starting all over again. Will I ever be able to pay off this debt? It seems unlikely, as these legal loan sharks are allowed to continue to sell these loans when they have received their interest. How can I pay off my loan if I can never get to the principal? I can't. I am now retired from nursing. I refuse to continue working to try to pay off a loan that will never end. My income is limited and I live within my means. This burden of a loan threatens my retirement. So how can you, Congress, the Department of Education, and the White House allow this to continue? How can you allow seniors to be subject to predators like this? Have you no moral compass, no shame? I call on you, Congress, the Department of Education, and the White House to cancel student debt for all, because it is an intentional roadblock set to deter working class people, and especially minorities, from achieving higher education and pursuing the American dream. But if they do, what a huge cost burden they incur. Other countries have free health care and education. They figured it out. Not America. This is an injustice to the American people. It is your moral duty to make this right. Cancel student debt for all now.
Clap it up. So we are gathered here today to urge the Biden-Harris administration to cancel all federal student debt, especially for older Americans. The student debt crisis is not just a young person's problem, because the fastest growing demographic of student debtors are people that are 50 and over. This is my future, and I don't want it to be, right? And so we are going to clap it up for the next speaker, Renita. Do you want to come up? Clap it up for Renita.
I think this is good.
Okay.
All right. Hello, my name is Renita Walker. I am from Sandy Springs, Georgia. I would have never imagined approaching my 60th birthday with $211,388 worth of student debt. The idea itself is paralyzing. It is the realization that I will probably work myself to death, literally. I currently work 2 jobs just to make my loan payments. My loan payments up until a couple of months ago were $1,800 a month. I had to pull money out of my 401k just to get my payment manageable at $1,316 a month. That is more than my mortgage. The realization that my interest is $1,166 every single month. That means I'm accruing interest at about $13,000 a year. That is how I got to the balance of $211,000. My story, I'm sure, as you've heard, it's not unusual, but it is. I got married, I had children, my husband passed away, I became a widow. I was left to work in corporate America with 2 kids. I wanted to continue my education, as I did, working, taking care of my kids, and as they aged up, they too wanted to go to school. I honored their request, and I too signed Parent Plus loans. As my children began to pursue their education, after 20 plus years of loan consolidations for all 3 of us, my payments have ballooned out of control. I don't see any resolution to this situation, and I'm at the point to think I will never be able to retire. Literally, I will die with this debt. Even though the IRS have legislation that allows for organizations to pay or match any student loan payment to put it into your 401k, my organization said they wouldn't honor that. Therefore, they did say, but if you want to go back to school, we'll pay up to $5,250. No, thank you. I don't need any more student debt. I just want to say, like many of the people here standing behind me, this was not something we asked for. Unfortunately, the system is broken, and we have to live with the results of that. The interest is what's killing us today. Even if that interest stops, we still are burdened with this student loan. We're just asking our legislatures, the president, and the Department of Education to cancel this debt for us. Thank you.
Cancel student debt. Cancel student debt. Cancel student debt. Next up, we have Mary. She's going to talk more about canceling student debt. Come on up.
Hello. I'm going to talk really loud. Is that loud? Because we've got like a lot of noise over there, and I'm going to talk louder than that noise. My name's Mary Donahue. I'm 62 years old. I'm from Richmond, Virginia currently. I lived in this city for 8 years, grew up in the suburbs of this city. I thought about my story. I've thought a lot about my story of how I got to this place at 62 years old with $145,000 in student loan debt. And my story started at age 18. You don't want to know all the details from 18 to when I finally got to go to college in my 40s. So I was a single mom. I worked as a waitress. I got cancer during my college years. I overcame a lot. None of that is really important. What's important is what happened after I graduated. I graduated with $70,000 in debt, and that was partly to help support my children. 3 years later, my loans had skyrocketed to $100,000. I paid $60,000, and now I owe $145,000. I am a master's in social work. I'm a clinical social worker, but I think there's something weird about that, and it feels to me like predatory lending. I don't understand where this money goes. I'm really upset that we have the money to make random decisions about sending bombs other places or bailing out corporations, and yet us, look at these people, listen to their stories. Where is our voice? Where's our voice, Biden? That's what I want to know. This is people suffering. These are people in our land. And you can look, you can see most of us went into fields where we were going into caring professions. You've heard their stories. We are caring human beings that wanted to help out the world. We just need a little help. So, I'm calling on them to cancel all loans for old people and then start doing that as people age into these loans. Thank you all very much. Thanks for being here.
Why is a college education a debt sentence in this country? Why do you have to wait until you pass away to get out from under these crushing student loans? Well, we're going to hear from some more people. Can Alicia come down? Can we clap it up for Alicia, please? Yes!
Hey, everyone. I joined the Navy so I would never have to take out any more student loans. I took every free college course I could while I was in the Navy, and even while I was deployed to Iraq in 2003. While I was in the Navy, I took advantage of loan deferment when it was offered to me, while the interest continued to compound exponentially on the loans I had from before I joined the Navy. Because of COVID relief funds, I was able to save up enough money for a down payment on a house. I could not use the benefit I earned of a VA loan because my student loan status, and I had to go with a higher interest rate commercial loan. The entire system is rigged to perpetuate generational poverty. Student loans with their compounding interest rates are predatory in their very nature. With the cost of college rising exponentially and wages not keeping up with the cost, we are headed toward another loan crisis. The Department of Education has the ability to forgive loans with various mechanisms within the law. Now 50 years old, with 2 sons in college full-time, service-connected for PTSD, and likely never able to retire because of this debt, I ask you to use your power to forgive the student loan debt of people age 50 and older. During a meeting today with the Department of Education Ombudsman, it was discovered that my loans were placed into default while I was on active duty. I did not know that was against the law.
When did that happen?
That also took place between the beginning of September 2001 and October 2001. On September 11th, I was serving in the Navy on active duty when they placed my loans into default. This was discovered today, thanks to the Debt Collective and their advocacy for student loan debtors. Instead of including a suicide hotline for veterans on every piece of communication we receive, the causes of these tragedies should be met with real solutions, including absolving some of the debt we accrued during our service because of this compounded interest and illegal activity by these debt collectors. Thank you.
So these stories represent just a small portion of the millions of people that are suffering from crushing student loans. And what criminal activity did they participate in to be punished? They decided to go to college. They decided they wanted to better their lives. This doesn't happen in other countries that are rich, right? Only in the United States do people that should be enjoying their golden years and being able to rest and pick up a couple of hobbies. No, instead they're working 2 jobs. They're paying $1,500 a month. They're throwing money into a bottomless pit, and that is what student loan debt is. And that's why, as a student loan borrower myself, I am a millennial, but I am solidarity with debtors that are over 51 years old. Because if we don't solve this crisis now, if the Biden-Harris administration doesn't do what it takes to solve this issue before right-wing litigants get in the way, then this is going to be my future. And this is going to be your children's future. And that's why we need to look on our older borrowers who we love and respect. I was taught to respect my elders, and we need to free them from these student loans. And if y'all are wondering, we're with the Debt Collective, and we let the, politicians know what they can do. There is a very obvious solution here. Under federal regulations, the Department of Education can cancel debt based on debtor's age. They can do it today. They know everybody's birthdays. And we are urging them to do what it takes, not just because it's the right thing to do and the moral thing to do, but because it's politically savvy. Behind me are voters. Biden, Harris, you need to do what it takes. I need you to finish the job. So I want everybody together to say, cancel student debt. Let's say it together. Cancel student debt. 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 Yes, let's keep it going. Now. When? Right now. Clap it up for yourselves. All these amazing people came today to talk to the other elected officials. I am Maddie Clifford. I am the creative media strategist with the Debt Collective, the nation's first union of debtors. I want y'all to remember older debtors, older borrowers. The student debt crisis is a multi-generational crisis, and it doesn't have to exist. It doesn't have to exist. And we need to fight to change that. So thank you so much for having us here today. Thank you.